Hello, Mr. Shearer.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Shearer. Welcome back.
Hello, good to be back. How are you?
I missed you terribly. Not. We had a wonderful show this morning with your wife, Karen,
I believe so.
and we're booting you out in season 2 for another wonderful show. We are now conspiring behind your back.
That's
so,
okay. I'm used to
that's
that.
okay. Yeah, I know you are. I know you are. Okay, good evening, everybody in the UK, all around the world. We are streaming live on YouTube. Thank you for joining us this evening. And this show this evening, Chris, is our, isn't it? It's our last show of season 1. It's like, wow, we never believed this would happen. We've gone for 7 months. We're newbies, and we've got 25 shows under our belt, and we return on the 29th of August for season 2. And I'll just throw out some names. We have Cheryl Costa, Yossi Rowan, Eric Mitchell, Rick Matthews from Forbidden Knowledge News, and so much more. Just so much more. So we're really excited. And to end season 1, we had to have a very, very, very special guest. So I'm glad. Technically, it went tits up last week because we're ending season 1 with the best. We are honoured. You can bring him out of the naughty room. We have the wonderful, loving Rob Gauthier on the show. Coming out the naughty room. Hi, Rob.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me here today. It's lovely. It's been a long time coming, but I've been waiting for this for weeks and weeks now, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you, guys.
Oh,
Well,
God.
thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Rob, I'm not going to be professional. You're in the room. Your energy's in the room. I'll just sit here smiling all night while you just take the show over, because me and Chris are in the UK. I don't know about anyone else. We're your biggest fans. When we found you, wasn't it, Chris, months and months ago?
Mm-hmm.
You inspired us in ways unbelievable. Your love, your humility, I can't even describe your energy and what you do for others and humanity, and especially with the channeling. However, tonight we've asked you to come on the show. If you would just share your beautiful experience of where you were and how you got to where you are today, Rob, please.
I can, and I'm glad to hear that I helped inspire you guys or help you along part of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's the biggest excitement in my life. If what I do can help someone even a little bit, then it feels like it's worth the time and effort and energy I put in. I've been channeling for 12 years professionally. About 14, give or take, have I had my connection to my guide. And what I do, channeling, I'm sure your audience is well aware, you've had talks about channeling, and you've had channelers on here too before.
Yeah, we had Roxanne's been on a couple of times, yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So you guys understand what channeling is. I don't have to go through that part of it, but um, I started off a long time ago, and I've told my story many different times in different lengths and ways. So I'm going to give a shorter version of that, but one that kind of goes through all the points. I started as a young kid having intuition, having dreams that I thought were dreams, and ended up being real contact with my family who had passed on before I'd been born, telling me things about my mom that I had no clue about from her childhood. And then I kind of always said, hey, what is this dream about? And you could see my mom visibly shaken, but, no, it's just a dream. My family was extremely Christian from the age of as early as I can remember. My family was in church, part of the church. Even my parents did bus ministry. My dad was a deacon at one of the churches. So, I mean, heavily integrated into the Christian belief systems, church itself as an institution. Part of everything in my life as a young kid was church and Jesus and God. A Protestant form of the Christianity, not so much Catholicism. But I did the whole Christian thing for a long time. When I got to be a teenager, all the questions that I had given that I didn't get answers for kind of made me just, not want to be there. But there was a straw that broke the camel's back when I was at the church. One time we were doing a sleepover, and I was too old for sleepovers. I was tired of it. But a kid I was with was inhaling some of this can stuff, the inhalants, and he was getting high off that. And me and my other friend, who were going there for a long time, we weren't doing that. We were just with the kid that was. Well, the preacher had caught the kid and took the can away from him and said, hey, if you do this again, you got to go. And then he went and caught him again because the kid went into the office and took it back. And then he grabbed me by my shirt and threw me up against the wall. And I'm like, a 13-year-old kid with a 40-year-old man physically slamming me against the wall for something I had nothing to do with. That was kind of my last bit of I'm done with this whole church thing. My parents didn't like it. I had to play hell with them to get through, but they understood, and eventually I just kind of quit that whole thing. My teenage years were a little troubling too. I hung out with a little bit of a bad crowd. Gangs were big in the 90s all across America. For those of you who went through that, you understand. But if not, gangs reach their heights in big cities, but also in small town America all over. They did documentaries on little town gang relations all throughout the 90s. So it was a pretty big thing. That gang mentality and lifestyle transferred over to the small town USA. People from the big cities moved into the smaller towns. So it was a wild time for a lot of people. Those are the people I spent my time with. So there was a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of that kind of stuff in my life really early, like starting from 13. One of my friends moved into a town from the rich little community that I lived into, where we were the poor family, and we were kind of the people that nobody wanted to spend time with or talk to. And then my friend went to a town that was almost all poor. And unfortunately, poverty is a place where a lot of that activity happens because people are tired of being poor. So they'll do whatever they can to get out of that neighborhood or to get a better lifestyle for their family. So that's kind of the angle and energy that I went. As soon as my friend went to that town, I would go there because we spent our lives at each other's houses. Still to this day, before I came on, I was just on his phone with my friend's dad. I still call him dad, and his mom, and he does the same for my mom and my dad who passed. So we're really close and really connected. There was no way that I wasn't going to go spend time with him, even though it was quite a ways away. So I went in. The town I was in, where he was living, where I was visiting, was pretty rough. It was about 50% black, 50% white. There was a lot of racial tension that was there. A lot of gang members, a lot of drugs. a lot of violence. And for such a small town of only like 12 or 15,000 people, it was incredibly dangerous town to live in at that time. So I would spend my time over there. We got mixed in with the people and the gangs. We got kind of centered into that lifestyle. And that's what I did until about the age of 19, where I had my son. And after that, I pulled back from that lifestyle and said, all right, I got to get serious now. I've got a kid. I've got to quit hanging out with knuckleheads and doing dumb stuff, because I'll end up going to jail. We had a few friends who had died, a couple who had went to jail or even prison. One of our close friends went to prison for like 6 years for doing the same stuff we were all doing, but not getting caught for. So I was like, you know, we need to be done with this. And then we stopped. Well, I did. And I started living my life with my son. My son was born with some issues. And the first day, they told us, you know, your son had some issues. His oxygen was cut a little bit, but never told us the extent of what was going on with him, how it would affect him, or anything like that. Eventually, it came to a point where, you know, it had been almost 3 weeks that he was hospitalized, and they sent me and his mother home and said, here's some medication. We did an EEG. He's having seizures. And that's all we were told. So it's like, man, that's crazy. You know, what's going on here? Why is this an issue? So the time passes. We're looking at 6 months, 1 year, all these milestones that children are supposed to reach at certain ages. He wasn't hitting any of them after about 3 or 4 months. Even the one at 3 or 4 months he was doing, he just wasn't doing it the same way that we'd seen other kids do. So it was a concern. We kept asking the doctors, and they were like, well, it's too young to tell. Kids grow at different rates. And eventually, when he was about 2 years old, we went to a new neurologist, because he had to go to a neurologist for his seizures. And that's when they said, well, of course, he's not going to make these milestones. He has cerebral palsy. And obviously, you know, kids with cerebral palsy aren't going to hit the milestones, you know. There's a good chance that he's going to be vegetabilized his whole life, that he won't walk, he won't talk, blah, blah, blah. And just laid it on me and his mom, 21 and 22 years old, not very educated. We didn't know a lot about anything. The only reason we did know something about CP is because his mother's cousin had CP and a pretty bad case of it. And he was already 8 or 9 at that time. I don't think 8 or 9, maybe a little younger. It was before he was 10 for sure. So that's the only thing I had to compare to. And he was pretty bad off. At this time, he was already on a feeding tube and all of these other things. So I said, oh my God, this is what my son's life's going to end up being like. And before that, like during the pregnancy, during the birth, after the birth, you know, as parents, you're like, oh man, you know, he'll be able to go to prom and play football if he wants, or play whatever, or not do any sports and become, you know, an intellectual, or do all these things that I saw that I thought was, you know, like a potential for my kid. The person who I ended up loving more than anything in the world, not even knowing him, this beautiful soul that I just fell in love with, even though I didn't want to be a dad all the way up until he was born. It's just mind-blowing. It's like a carpet's pulled out of under you. Welcome to your new life. Welcome to the person you love the most, new life. And this is what it is. And it really, really hit me hard. It sent me into a pretty bad depression. So, you know, for about a year or so, I just sat with that depression, trying to make life work under the understanding that everything's changed. The mourning the loss of the son that I thought had the potential to have experiences in life and have unlimited and endless potential. Now they're telling me this is a finite wall of potentiality that your son will have, and that's it. And it was devastating. My heart was broken. His mom took it a lot worse than I did even. And as much depression as I had, I just kept my head down, kept going. That's what you're taught as a male growing up. My father was that same male. And I do not want to make it sound like he was one of those guys who were just from like the 40s and 50s who grew up at that time, who was a jerk, because he wasn't. He was the most amazing, loving human being wonderful. But he came from that generation. You're a man. Put your chin down, put your head up, and just deal with it. You've got to be the one to handle all this stuff. And that mindset was there. So I just kept going. And finally, it was a winter time, and I got into a car crash, and I messed up my shoulder and my neck pretty bad. They put me on pain meds. The pain meds led to addiction, getting kicked out of doctors giving me the pain meds because I kept using them more than I should and kept saying, ooh, I lost my refill, so that they would fill it early. All those things led me to a real bad drug addiction. Eventually, after a couple years of that and getting kicked off, I just kind of went to the street for pain meds. This is the early 2000s to mid 2000s. Anyone here in the US probably remembers the commercials for OxyContin and morphine on TV. Don't get hooked. It's an epidemic in America. And it was. And I had started right before that became a big thing, but it was available everywhere on the street. And once everyone started using those, it became harder to find. And if you don't have pain meds and you're used to taking pain meds without them, you'll get sick. There's a mental addiction, an emotional addiction. Eventually, it led me to harder drugs like heroin, cocaine, and other things like that. So I lost myself for 9 years in prescription drugs, then harder drugs. And as you can imagine, most of you know someone who's been addicted or heard of some addiction story. Yeah, it was the worst possible scenario. The only thing I had in the whole 9 years that was different than the worst story you could think of is my connection to my son. My love for him kept me grounded, at least to come home at night and to spend my days with them and to take care of him. His mom was having her own, experience with all of it too. And eventually I wanted to be done with it, so I stopped. And that's where my real spiritual journey started. Not connecting to these emotions and thoughts that I had had since I was a kid, going through the lifestyle of violence and things in my friend moving out and the gangs. That separated me from a lot of what I was. That taught me to take fear and try to remove it as much as you could, or try to dominate over other people, because that mentality is what kept the gang lifestyle going in the way that it was supposed to be, in the way that everyone said it was. So literally, since the age of 13, I kind of just tucked my emotions away and never dealt with them. And this forced me to. It brought so much to the surface that I had put away in my mind, behind my heart, and just brought it to the surface like right now. And it took me a few days of getting sick. It took me a few days of figuring out, how to do it. And then these emotions come in, and it was raw, and I was a mess. It was horrible. But eventually, after getting transitioned to a medication to help me get off the other stuff, I eventually started having real emotions again, seeing beauty in the things that weren't there before, like taking a walk and seeing nature, like standing in the rain in a warm day, letting it drop on your face and just feeling that presence of being there. Those things were missing, and those things were missing very heavily in my life. And to feel those again brought a whole spiritual awareness to me that I never knew existed. That led me into a lot of things. I always believed that there was some form of God or some creator force or some force that helped create what we were experiencing. And with this newfound beauty, it was almost undeniable. Like, I have got to figure this out, because whatever this presence is, I want to know more about it. I want to be more around it. I knew in seeing my parents through Christianity, even though it wasn't the same type of relationship with that type of energy, I saw their lives better with the relationship to God and the way that they felt. So I wanted that, but I knew it wasn't the same relationship that my parents had. So I tried different things, spiritualism, church, which taught me how to meditate, taught me how to be present, it taught me how to receive. And then that became kind of too organized religion, or at least that specific church was having inner fighting, and it reminded me too much of the old Christian church.
Yeah.
So I ended up leaving, and then found the Hemi-Sync Gateway Experience by the Monroe Institute, and that brought me to a whole new level of meditation. And eventually, after several months of that, I had a real rough night, and I said, I'm going to do this meditation, and I did. And it took me to the deepest level that I'd ever been in meditation. So much so that I was literally out of my body and present. I had had out-of-body experiences, even a past life recall that was very vivid, that I felt like I was there. But this was the most intensive, surreal experience that I'd ever had. And I'm sitting here in a place I didn't know, and in comes Treb, the guide who I channel, who I first met. And it scared me, but I felt this presence of love so strongly, kind of overtook me. And then I listened. I'm like, what is going on? Why am I here? And then he says, we're connected. You know, a lot of things that you feel and understand, you don't understand why. The reality that you feel and see isn't quite the way that you're feeling and seeing it. And if you're interested in connecting, if you want to understand this more, I'm here because we're connected. And it was pretty much that conversation, and that was it. And I was like, oh my, what is happening? I thought I went crazy. I thought my brain got broken from meditations. So I went in again and again and again, and finally got to know Treb, who's the being I am. So we spent 2 years together. And after meeting in astral projected state, like in meditation state, I asked him, I said, because, you know, meeting him sent me into a whole rabbit hole of looking through all sorts of stuff. Channeling was included in that. And I said, what you've shared with me has changed my life. Let's give that to other people. But of course, at that point, I didn't trust myself to share. I didn't trust that if someone asked a question, I would be able to have the answer or figure it out. So I said, can you come through me the same way these beings come through these entity, you know, humans, and share the information with others? And he said, yeah, we can do that. He taught me techniques. I went on a spree looking for like books of meditation, channeling, all the things I could find. And eventually, after a couple months of working together, we ended up doing the first channeling. And I did 5 or 6, some that I just recorded for myself, others that my son's mom, I gave her a list of questions to ask, she asked. And like after literally just doing it a handful of times, I went straight to YouTube and started sharing, and just instantly sharing, instantly people resonated with it, found something exciting about it, something useful about it, helpful. So I just kept going, and the rest is where we're at today. You know, it just progressed for about 11 years from then.
I mean, you know, I'm just sitting here. We all think we've experienced illusional trauma, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, Rob, come on, one thing after another and another and another. And if anything, guys, it's inspiring. But what I find, what I find profound is what all the way through you had that love with your son. I mean, that is just, as you would find a normal human experiencer would not be able to do that and would just crash. But it was just that connection to your son. And I'm fully aware you still have that connection with your son today, don't you?
Yeah, he myself and his mother, we don't live together anymore. We were married. We got divorced. So he stays with me 2 weeks out of each month and stays with his mom the other 2 weeks. And me and her have made a lot of progress in the way we communicate in our own relationship. And my new wife, Kalina, and I just had a baby 2 years ago. Her birthday was actually the 25th of this last month. So she just turned 2, and it's actually been something that's been an amazing thing. The love I had for my son only ever expanded after I met Treb, after I started channeling. Then after meeting Kalina and having our baby, the second child thing is always a worry. Like, what if I can't give as much love as I gave to him?
Mm.
No, not a problem. It just grew. My heart grew, and I was like, I didn't think my heart had any more room for any love extra, because I'm trying to love everybody around the world and compassion for people, and hold the love for I was like, I don't know how much more love I can give. I hope. But easy, just like my son, the minute she was born, my heart expanded and blew up. And then just every day, seeing her doing new things, seeing more of her real personality, just like I'm just as in love with her as I was and am with my son still. She's amazing. Yeah, it's the family's grown, the energy of love has grown, and that love for my family is what really grounds me into my earth experience more and more. I actually have kind of like that Achilles heel thing with my family, because this, I feel, is my number one passion: sharing the channeling, doing what I can to help other people, giving them something of value that they can reflect on, so that they can grow and choose how to make their own decisions and their own resonance. But when it comes to my family has a huge amount of love, but also is kind of a little crazy, with my son. It's a lot of work. With the baby, it's a lot of work. So lately I found myself having to give up some of that energy of the channeling to do more with the family. And as much as I could say I feel bad about it, because I do feel that, not being able to share as much of channeling as I could is always something. But honestly, you can't miss this.
I mean, my
part of his life.
perception, I don't know about you, Chris, but my perception is when I first found you, I found you on Gaia in Rubin's interview of ED, and I went through everyone, and there was 2 channelers I resonated with, just Roxanne and yourself. And with yourself, it was Treb. And that unconditional, it was just an energy was just jumping at me. And I don't know if it was my imagination, but it wasn't long after as I kept seeing it. And it was, yes, I kept hearing, yes. And I'm going, are you really? And this was, and then I spoke to Chris. Chris was on it. We did your meditations, and the more that I allowed that energy and watched your channel, then same with Roxanne. I find with you, even though you're not channeling now, Treb is here. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely, it does. And it's funny. Treb and Ardif are always very strong in my energy. When I'm doing something fun, Treb tends to be more up front. And when I'm doing something very deep, like mentally and or emotionally, then Ardif tends to be more present. But I know exactly what you're saying. It's funny with Treb, because Treb and Ardif are very different in the way they express their consciousness. Treb tends to be more of connecting to everybody, anybody, and everybody who connects. So I've had like hundreds of people say, I think Treb's connecting with me. And I'm always like, well, maybe, or maybe you like Treb so much that you're creating that energy. But almost every single time someone's asked Treb or Ardif, hey, was that Treb? Yep, it was. Because Treb, that's his excitement, to go out and connect to other people. Yeah. And Ardif's a bit more one-directional. He kind of I
noticed the vibe is totally different. And I never got an Ardif. And I could feel this excitement, this energy. And I would feel and hear, yes. And I was going, oh my God. Whole pins and needles and everything. And I go, oh my God, like this. But it was that energy. It was just like so much love. And eventually it faded away. But it was just like an acknowledgement. But I actually feel that Treb is here more than Ardif, because I think I connect to the Treb energy. What do you think, Chris? Do you love Treb or Ardif? Which is your one?
Well, I thought it was interesting when you said the being just joined you, because I got a reptilian was the first one that said hello to me, so my heart sank. But but because of the way he looked. But I was going to ask you something else, actually. Do you think that the lifestyle and the life you went through do you think it's helped and attributed to opening the heart and the qualities and the gifts you have now with the work that you do, aside from family, but the work that you do for others, the service that you give?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a big ordeal that you've gone. It's a massive ordeal that you've gone through, and utmost respect with the drugs and the addiction and depression, and the fact you've come out the other side of it is a very difficult thing to do. It takes a lot, and you've done that. I just wondered, it will give you a quality. You had that quality anyway, as we know, but that quality's been shielded for a long time. To open that up again and come out and be brave and say, well, this is who I really am, it must be a major thing or a big thing to do.
Yeah, and thank you for that too. It is definitely something that past lifestyle did help create. I've always told someone, and it's funny, I talked to one of my friends doing an interview a couple weeks who brought up a good point. You know, he had said something similar to the effect of, hey, did your past experience kind of lead you into this energy and help you, or did it, harm you? And I said, going through that experience helped me understand where everyone else was coming from when I started sharing and started taking an interest to help people. You can't understand someone's problems that they're going through if you haven't had someone close to you go through something similar, or yourself. Even if you're very empathic, even if you're very in touch with your emotions and your empathy and the connection to other people, without the direct personal experience, it can be hard for you to put yourself into the shoes of those people. Like some people are like people who've committed violence or murdered people or murdered children. Those are like the worst things in the world. Nobody would say, oh, I wonder why they did that. Most people are just like, these people are horrible, they're worthless, they're bad. But going from a place from violence and understanding the reason why violence happens and the reason why it's perpetuated and the reason why it's consistent, it gives me a stop and say, hold on, instead of just going out, which is something my friend had said in the interview. He said, maybe it's so that you don't have to judge people, because he said, you're one of the people I met who have a huge heart and you don't judge people. And I thought about it. I said, you're right. I try not to judge anyone for anything, even those things like murder, like violence that people normally just say, no, there's no excuse, there's nothing. And I'm like, hold on, let's try to figure out why.
Yeah.
This has served me well in the last 2 years as the collective energy seems to be more split and more divisive between governments and between people and between community, even in our own spiritual community. More division keeps happening. And instead of saying, hey, this side's right, this side's wrong, I'm joining this side, you say, let's stop, guys, with the division and figure out the common ground first. And figure out why the person across from you thinks the way they do, instead of just automatically biting their head off and telling them that they're a snowflake or that they're a fascist or whatever the hell people are doing these days. It's easy to react, but it's hard to figure out and step in. And I think that's the main reason I had to go through the violence, the drugs, the lifestyle that I did, to be able to have that capacity to stop and think and then try to figure out why it's there instead of just judging that it's there,
I mean, it's just obviously I have a very similar viewpoint to yourself, similar perception. Obviously I've got a bit of a history, and I actually totally resonate with what you're saying. I wish my heart was as big as yours, though. That would be lovely. Chris would love that if I was nicer to him, wouldn't you, Chris? I would like to ask you, Rob, where's Treb from? Okay, I know it's consciousness, singularity, and we're all having the experience. I put that to one side. Talking on a human, perspective, where is Treb from? As in his role, his conscious role.
Treb, in a conscious role, is like a fifth density being. He sits in the lighter end of fifth density, and densities, dimensions can trip a lot of people up. The simple explanation for a density is that it's a separate dimensional layer, but also a level of soul consciousness or evolution of consciousness. So if you look at fifth density, it's basically the place where wisdom is mastered. And that's what Treb's going through right now. He's already gone through the sense of self, which is where we're transitioning out of and going into the sense of love and connection. He's mastered the love and connection. Now he's at the end of mastering wisdom. And the next level he goes to is complete mastery of interconnectedness, which is where art is from, the sixth density, where it merges the sense of connection and of wisdom. So basically anything that you love, you'll learn everything about automatically as an integrated part. And everything you learn something about, you'll automatically love. There's like no barrier between the love and the wisdom. And that's why, the different levels. So Treb comes from fifth density. And fifth density and sixth density are both physical planes, dimensions, and physical dimensional layers, but they're less physical than ours. So a lot of people say, oh, well, those guys are not really physical. But in their dimension, they exist just as physically, but with much less limitations. That's why they're able to teleport themselves or, meditate and divide their consciousness and talk to us and talk to someone else and talk to them and still do something physically with their body like Treb does. So physically, if you located him like looking up in the sky, the star that we call Capella in the Argai constellation, that's where he's from. Even though the one star looks like, or what looks like one star in the sky to us is actually multiple stars. That's the area that he comes from. So Treb's amazing, like he said, but there's a long story of how they got there, their genetics, all sorts of stuff that I really am excited to share with people. But the energy behind that specific star system is amazing too.
I keep something's coming in my mind. Sorry, we're both going to go now. We're going to go. We're both going to.
I was going to say my answer to your question was, when you asked me the question before, I said, yeah, Treb would be with him. But I felt more of the Arda, to be honest with you.
No, you're picking up.
Only because he freely opened himself in a vulnerable position, and it didn't matter. So I feel more of the wisdom and that's needed came through. And that's where
I own up. I've fallen in love with Treb. Okay, I'm outed. I'm outed. I keep going back to Gaia and watching it again and again. I'm just falling in love with that consciousness, that energy. Can I ask you? I'm going to try and find a way to ask this, so please forgive me. I can only do it with words. Are you and Treb connected DNA-wise, so to speak?
DNA, partially, yeah, but it's not because we are genetically related directly, or that I've had, like you hear some people say they've had upgrades from DNA with extraterrestrial intervention. That's not happened to me that way. But Treb's race is actually derived from 50% DNA of the Nihal collective consciousness and a reptilian animal. So if you see the physical structure, the Nihal are actually future versions of humans. Like one group of humans that left Earth went to the Beta Laporta star system and started their own collective there. So really Treb has human DNA in him, even though it's future human DNA. And the DNA changes when you move to a new planet. If you move to a new planet, maybe your specific DNA doesn't change, but your children's are then gonna, yours will change slightly, but your children's will take on a whole new sequence because you're vibing with the planet that you live on. It's like it's like I'm trying to think of the name, harmonic resonance. There has to be two different forms that come together in a similar way through vibration, and that's the way that it works with other planets. So their grandkids, like the first people to land in Beta Leporis, their grandkids are almost a whole new species than their grandparents, and their grandkids even more so. They take on more of the life. And the planet, that's the fun thing about this that I didn't understand until I started understanding more about the Nihal. Planet of consciousness also will shift to the group of beings that live on it. So it's like a two-way street. I figured, a new race goes to a new planet that's not inhabited, that they might change the landscape of the planet, but they're not going to change the actual vibrational field or like, the DNA of the planet itself, but it does. It's a two-way street. There's a resonance that has to meet halfway. And obviously a whole planet's bigger than a collective of beings or people.
Yeah.
But, it still comes some way that way and a lot of way the other way, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I mean, so we've got hope yet because Mother Earth, she's shifting and it's beautiful and I'm feeling it. I've got one of those nosy questions, I've always wanted to ask, Rob.
That's fine.
And you must have heard it many, many, many times. I do apologize. Is Treb here now and come into your reality now with the information? I know we don't have reason and purpose. I get all that from Roxy, but let's go back to being human. Has Treb come here to share something for us, for our consciousness to awaken to the I am, isness? I am, yeah. Is that why he's in, and all the other beings that are coming in now? Is that what's happening?
Now this is going to depend a lot on how you look at it. The short answer is yes, that's the outcome of what's happening. These beings are sharing, we're receiving, and we shift our end. So that shifts the whole end. So yes, but that's not the reason he's here. The reason that he's here specifically is because he's excited to connect with other beings. And when he connects to other beings, he realizes that anything that one does reflects back into the whole. So if he helps you cross the street so you don't get hit by a car, you don't get hurt, he's helping the whole universe walk across the street and not get hit by a car or not get hurt. It's not a selfish thing, and it's not a selfless thing. It's a mixture of both. Every being, every human, every consciousness has an agenda of one form or another. I'm here because I like talking to cool people. I like hanging out with people who have big hearts. Plus, this is my favorite topic. Channeling, ETs, consciousness, all of it. So this is like fun for me, right? That's my agenda. Treb's agenda, wanting to connect to multiple people to help collectively raise vibration of all things. Because if one person raises their vibration 1%, it ripples out in the universe. And the same with Ardif. But they also have their personal interest. And Treb's is learning about new races and sharing what he's learned with them to see how it reflects back into them. So directly, it's caused by excitement. His excitement to connect with me, my excitement to channel him, your excitement to talk to me about it, and my excitement to connect with all the people who are open to that energy. And then Ardif's the same way, just Ardif's much different. Ardif's a singular focused consciousness who likes to do one thing at a time, whereas Treb likes to do a million things at once. So it's definitely a different thing, but the same thing. His agenda is to connect with humans. Artist says something interesting. He says something to the effect of this. And sorry, I keep sniffling. I started the weather change in Michigan does that to me every year.
Okay.
What happens? Artist usually says at the end of sessions with people, when you're asking questions, we're able to look at the parts of your energy that we never saw. And because we're able to see that, we're able to see some more of ourselves that we never saw about us, about ourselves as a race. And
like
also,
a reflection.
Yeah.
Like
so
a reflection. Sorry, yeah, go on. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just saying, so he basically ends by saying, as you're growing, we're growing. So good job on your growing, and thanks for helping us grow. So that's realistically the way it works. Yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose that's why you can pick up what I can pick up from you is just when you're talking, I do pick up Treb. I'm sorry, I can't. I've just got this smile. My face aches, my cheeks stop. But so really, even when you're not channeling, you are the telephone operator, and I now have such a better understanding of the two-way. Never had that before, did you, Chris? Because people keep saying, oh, they're coming here to help us, and I have a knowing that's not true. I don't need a savior. I am consciousness. Yeah. They're consciousness, and I didn't quite get between the two, but now I know that they get a reflection from us for their evolution, or in brackets, and that I'm eternally grateful for. That is like, I can't stop smiling, Chris. It's just like I told you, my face hurts.
Treb's contagious that way.
Honest, I'm telling you, when I watch Treb on, obviously when you're channeling, I'm smiling for hours and hours, and I'm going, stop, like this, because the muscles, but it's excitement and it's joy. So I did say I'm going to have a face ache later. Rob, I'm going to have to say, and I've said it before, the love that you give out, because I was fully aware of what your experience, because I've followed you, and the love that you give out and the energy, and Treb especially, I've got to give credit to Treb, as you do. It's just unbelievable. Your heart is, and I got to say, it's not Rob, the human. I know what you know what I'm trying to say. It's the energy that your vessel is. And the way that you go about when you talk about other things, I've heard you talk about politics, viruses, wars, and you are neutral. And I'm going, oh my God, I want to be neutral. I do look at other people. I don't judge them. That's why I become a criminologist, to study why people do what they do. So I don't that, but you can do it on a holistic. And I'm going, wow. How do you do that without your inner biases? My beliefs come in there. They're still there. I'm still working on me. It's amazing what you do, isn't it, Chris? It's amazing what you done. You blew his mind away when I introduced you to him. Well, Treb, you blew him away. I'm telling you. I was thinking, Chris has got more questions than I, but obviously I'm the female, so I'm going first.
I'm the quiet one, so I'll just sit here.
Yeah, I always take over because I'm too excited. I'm sorry. Blame Treb. I'm not asking for future, but I have a sense, obviously, because I do experience ETs and I paint them and that, but I have a sense like their connection to us on let's say on the masses or multiples now is increased exponentially. For example, when me and Chris started this show, I was being made contact to all other experiences like me. I'm an ET experiencer, yeah, so I've had contact on abduction, and I can just see other people saying, I've seen this being, isn't it, Chris? We know this. I've seen this. So is there something happening now I'm not asking for a positive or fortune telling, but are you aware of a change that the likes, not of Treb, but other energies are coming in and learning from us, and we're learning from them? Are you finding, because years ago it was just like Bashar and yourself and Rama and Seth. Years ago it was like one, but now it seems to have I perceived that correctly?
Yes, absolutely. I think that you've nailed that one. The consciousness of all humans is raising up as a part of our evolution. Like I was talking about the densities, going 3 to 4 is just a shift of us moving from one way of being to another. And there is dimensionality and shift, but most of the shift tends to be from the way we're operating. So before, humans just operated on knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Still, a lot of us have a lot of work to do on that, right?
Yeah.
But the new part of that is understanding connections. Connection of your heart, connection of your mind, connection to people, connection to objects, connection to reasons why you do things, literally your connection to everything. And I've noticed that since that shift started, there have been more and more people integrating the community. Like if you typed in the word channeler before, you would get maybe 10 channelers, and 1 or 2 of those would be multiple, like dozens or hundreds of videos. A couple would be maybe 5 or 10 videos, and most of them are just 1 or 2 videos people uploaded about the channeler that they liked. And that was all there was back when I first met Treb on YouTube about channeling. Now, thousands, tens of thousands across the world, just on the internet on YouTube, tens of thousands or more on alternative sites and social media altogether, just millions probably of channelers out there today who are doing it. And some don't present in channel state the same way that I do, or Daryl Anklewood, or any other channeler. They do different forms of channeling, but there are still people who call themselves channeler, tens to hundreds of thousands around the world right now, accessible any way you can. Facebook, YouTube, all the different social media sites. So it's shifted, and it's amazing. I find with more people in our community, more channelers in the community, there's also more opportunity to find something that resonates with you more deeply. But also you're going to bump into a lot of stuff that doesn't resonate with you, and a lot of stuff that's just not going to get it for you. And that's okay too, because even my channeling, a lot of people love it and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, meh.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm Treb. I got the Treb badge. I'm telling you, changed my life, changed my energy, changed Chris's life, and changed his energy. I mean, watching all the channelers, I see where they've all gone over the years. However, I'm going to say it as it is. Roxanne and yourself freely share this love, freely share this information to those who seek it. It's free. It's yours. It's for all of us. It's not hidden away. And I said that very politically correct, I think. I think I said that okay to the UK. You've got to be careful here. And I am so grateful, so grateful. And Rob, I know you're busy, and Chris has hardly had any questions, but tough, get over it, Chris, okay? You can rewatch it, do you know what I mean? No, he knows me. I would like to ask you, I know you don't channel, not today, I know you don't channel before 3 p.m. and you have your set routine, that maybe at the end of the year in season 2, we would do a late show that would, so like UK 9 p.m, that would be, because you won't channel, you're after 3. Would you return later in the year on season 2? I'll book you in months in advance, and we'd do a really late one. There's going to be a bit of argument though, because I want Treb. Chris?
Well, I'm going to ask you, Rob, if I can.
He's going to get
we
your
can have
question.
them both. I mean, they can both have a chat with you guys.
Okay, booked. Lovely.
No, I'd love that. No, that'd be great. But I just wanted to ask you, do you always communicate through the words or vision, or do you get symbology sometimes, synchronicity, or does that work with you as well? Do they give you that communication? Only because, sorry, I apologize for my dog.
Oscar.
Only because obviously she was on about Roxy and yourself, but Dee came on and I resonate a bit with Dee because I used to see the light codes everywhere. You know what I mean? When the energy was high, and so I just wondered, is it always like the that same set communication, or is it all aspects that go on for you at different times?
Yeah, for me, my channeling has always been the same. I go into a deep trance. I astral project out of my body. I'm connecting with Treb on an astral plane, and Treb consciousness comes through me. But as far as my intuition and insight, that's always ever developing. That's shifting and changing all the time. It started off with just thoughts like, maybe this is probably right.
Yeah.
Treb, the spiritualism church, really taught me how to trust my own self and trust my connection. So when I started actually saying, yep, this is the answer because I feel it, I know it's right, then I started entering more visual concepts. Like when I'm sitting down and I'm thinking about something and like, I wonder what I could do about this or that, or just randomly get a pop in, then sometimes I'll have an inner vision. And the inner vision, the best way you could describe it is like my eyes are watching the camera right now so that I can face you guys and so that you can see my face while I'm talking to you. But while I'm watching this, if I had that inner vision, there would be an overlay of the object, not fully permanent, not fully present, but like a very translucent outline of that object. But in my own consciousness, I will see it crystal clear, even though my eyes and my third eye can't see it visually. I also can relate back and forth with Treb and Ardif consciously. Since about 2015, I was able to actually hear them when I'm not in a channeled state. So I can hear Treb, or I feel his energy strongly and then get that same message and know instantly that was from Treb and that was correct. And I practiced that when it first happened by going back and forth. Like when I got that and said, yeah, this is the answer, this is for sure, I'd go back into my channel state and meet with him astrally when I was channeling for someone else and say, hey, earlier, this is what I received. I knew it was right. That was you, right? Yep. That helped me learn to trust more, and then it just became stronger. So now Treb and Ardif are always around me all the time. Whenever I'm excited, I feel more of their energy, but if there's something that I need to understand, I bounce it out, and I always try to work it out myself first before connecting to their energy to help assist me with it. And if I hit a brick wall, that's when I usually do the reflective, conscious answering technique. And if that doesn't work, then I go in and connect with Treb directly. Because Ardif, I channel him, but I don't visit him on his planet or wherever he's at in face-to-face communication like I do with Treb. Treb's like my original guide, my OG original guide. And he's the one who I built my relationship out with so my consciousness could expand enough to connect with Ardif. So Ardif, I can hear, I can feel him, I can see him in my mind's eye. I just don't have that direct personal communication like I do with Treb. So Treb's my last stop. If I don't have the answer, that's where I go.
Because I was thinking over the last few months, obviously, talking to Roxanne, we've had Dee on the show. I forgot about Dee. She's been on twice. We did her meditation. Oh my God, all things happened. And I've had in the back of my mind, so really, Rob and Roxanne and Dee have got a hotline to God, in quotes, got a question going, but you've just said, no, we do the work. And I've heard Roxy say that many times. We do the work. I've done the work and it hurts. Got to do. So that just really confirms what I thought I already knew, that you do the work. But the fact is, for my perception, my truth, what you're doing, Rob and Roxanne and Dee, is for humanity. And to me, it's it's just amazing. It's just, and I am truly, truly grateful. I don't want to go over time because I know you told me you've got appointments and you're busy. Chris, you get the last question because I'm just too happy now.
No, I don't. That's one. But no, I just find it fascinating. Thank you so much
Wonderful.
for coming on,
been
Rob,
an honour.
showing your energy, and I just find it humbling and utmost respect for the journey you've had and how you come out the other side, because that's a major thing. So for many people, and the fact your son and the things that you have, the daily battles that your son has, it is a hard thing in itself. So take me heart.
Absolutely. Talk about give an analogy, the hero's journey. In my eyes, Rob Gauthier, you are a hero. Please take it with all my love. And you've inspired me. Well, I've got to say, Antwerp, I'm sorry, just me being me. I have to say Treb as well. Cardiff is a bit for me, but there you go. But thank you so much. And we look forward to, if you will return end of the year, we will change to nighttime. And I could just sit there and ask, oh my God, it's like a rock star for me. I'm a child, who cares? To ask Treb a question, I would be like blown away. You're like, oh my God, to feel that love, because that's what I feel when I see you channel him. I feel it, but to directly speak to me is like, wow, I'm cool. There you go. Rob, thank you so much.
I would love to come back and channel with you guys, and I know that's a big time shift to ask because you guys are so many hours ahead of me, but if you could accommodate that, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, definitely.
We will.
Definitely.
Yeah, we will. But also the viewers, it will go out to the viewers. And I know it sounds like it's all about me, but the intention of the show is to get this out there to humanity. That's me. It's not just for me. It's for humanity as well. Rob Gauthier, I love you so much.
Oh, thank you. I love you guys.
Your lovely wife and all the things she does. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for coming on. Thank you. Chris,
thank you,
hold on. Chris is going to put you in the naughty room for a minute while we say goodbye.
Love you guys. Thanks again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cheers.
Wow. Wow, what an end to a season. So I'm just like smiling. Sorry, Chris, I took all the questions. That's unusual for me.
Nothing new there, Gloria. Nothing new there. Okay.
I can't stop. I just feel so happy. I haven't drunk anything, guys. I took no drugs. I've just got this energy and I'm happy. Well, thank you, everybody who's followed, supported, shared our show for the past several months. We are now at the end of season 1. We're having a little break for about 4 or 5 weeks. We're back on the 29th of August with Cheryl Costa, and we've got a lineup of amazing guests, and we're going to get Rob Gauthier, so you can have a late night, one Sunday night, book the day off work on the Monday, because we'll get Rob Gauthier back on, and to bring in Treb and Ardith. And we love you guys, don't we, Chris? Thank you for all your support and all your lovely messages and your participation.
Good night. You've not
Good
done
night, Chris Shearer. Bye,
night.
everybody. See you in August. Bye.
Bye.